Imagine waking up one morning to the sight of Mount Rainier, that majestic snow-capped giant you see every clear day from Seattle, suddenly roaring back to life after centuries of quiet. The ground trembles beneath your feet, and within hours, the Pacific Northwest faces a catastrophe unlike anything in modern American history. What would actually happen to your city if Mount Rainier erupted? You live in one of the most beautiful regions in the world, but that beauty hides a sleeping giant. At just over 14,400 feet, Rainier is not only the tallest mountain in the Cascade Range, but also one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the United States. Scientists have studied its past eruptions extensively, and their findings paint a sobering picture for the more than 4 million people who call the greater Seattle-Tacoma area home. The biggest threat would not be lava or even ash falling directly on downtown Seattle, but something far more insidious: massive lahars, those raging rivers of mud, rock, and debris that can travel at highway speeds. Dr. Carolyn Dreger, a renowned hydrologist with the USGS Cascades Volcano Observatory, has spent decades modeling these lahars. Her research shows that Rainier has produced some of the largest debris flows in the world over the last 10,000 years. In an eruption scenario, hot pyroclastic material would melt the mountain's 25 glaciers and snowfields almost instantly, sending billions of cubic yards of water and volcanic debris surging down the valleys. You might think Seattle is safe at 60 miles away, and in many ways, you are right. Most lahars would primarily devastate communities directly in their path, like Ording, Puyallup, and Sumner. Those towns could be buried under tens of feet of mud within minutes of a large flow reaching them, yet the ripple effects would reach you in Seattle far more than you might expect. As the lahars deposit enormous amounts of sediment in the Puyallup and Nisqually River systems, weeks and months later, that material would wash downstream into the Duwamish Waterway. Your industrial South End neighborhoods, the ports, and even parts of the Duwamish River corridor could face severe flooding and sedimentation issues. Cargo ships might struggle to navigate channels that suddenly become shallower, disrupting the flow of goods that keeps the economy humming. Transportation would grind to a halt in unpredictable ways. Interstate 5, the lifeline connecting north and south, could be severed or heavily damaged south of the city. SeaTac Airport might close not just from ash, but from the logistical nightmare of supporting rescue and recovery operations. You would see your daily commute transform into a test of patience as bridges, roads, and rail lines face ongoing threats from secondary flooding and debris. Ashfall adds another layer of complexity. Wind patterns in the Pacific Northwest are notoriously variable. While prevailing winds often blow east toward the Cascades and beyond, a shift could blanket Seattle in several inches of fine volcanic ash. Dr. Thomas Pearson, whose pioneering work on lahar dynamics has informed hazard planning across the globe, notes in his studies that even thin layers of ash can clog air filters, damage machinery, and make roads treacherously slippery when wet. Power lines might sag and snap under the weight, leading to widespread outages that last days or weeks depending on the cleanup effort. The economic impact would be staggering. The Port of Seattle and Tacoma handle billions in trade annually. A major disruption here would send shockwaves through supply chains nationwide. Grocery shelves could empty faster than during any recent event as fuel and food deliveries face delays. Insurance claims would skyrocket, and property values in vulnerable areas would plummet overnight. You might find yourself part of a region-wide effort to rebuild infrastructure that could take years and cost tens of billions of dollars. But let's talk about the human element. Modern monitoring gives you something previous generations never had: warning time. The USGS and Pacific Northwest Seismic Network track every rumble and tremor on Rainier. In the event of unrest, you would likely have days or even weeks of escalating alerts before a full eruption. Once a lahar is detected racing down the valley, communities in the direct path might have as little as 30 to 60 minutes. But Seattle would generally receive several hours of notice thanks to its distance. That time would be critical for evacuation and preparation. A landmark study published in the Journal of Volcanology and Geothermal Research by a team led by Dr. Kevin Scott analyzed Rainier's lahar history and concluded that while the odds of a catastrophic eruption in any given year are low, roughly 1 in 500 or so, the potential consequences demand serious planning. Their work underpins the current hazard maps that guide everything from building codes to emergency response drills in the region. You would also contend with secondary hazards. Earthquakes accompanying the eruption could damage older buildings in Seattle. Landslides on the mountain's flanks might temporarily dam rivers, only to release sudden floods later. Air quality would suffer for months as fine particles linger in the atmosphere. Mental health strains would emerge as families grapple with displacement, loss of loved ones in harder-hit areas, and the uncertainty of when normal life might resume. In the immediate aftermath, you would witness an extraordinary mobilization. Federal, state, and local agencies have practiced these scenarios through exercises like Cascadia Rising. The National Guard would likely deploy, temporary shelters would spring up, and community resilience would be tested like never before. Seattle's tech industry and philanthropic networks might step up in remarkable ways, providing resources and innovation to aid recovery. Long-term, the eruption would reshape the landscape around you. The rivers draining Rainier would carry elevated sediment loads for decades, changing flood patterns and requiring constant maintenance. New wetlands might form in some places while others become barren mudflats. The mountain itself would look dramatically different, scarred and reshaped by the forces unleashed. Yet amid all this, there is perspective. Rainier has erupted many times before, and life in the Pacific Northwest continued. The 1980 Mount St. Helens event, while devastating locally, ultimately taught valuable lessons that improved monitoring and preparedness for Rainier today. You live in a region that understands natural hazards and has the ingenuity to adapt. Imagine waking up one morning to the sight of Mount Rainier standing silent and majestic once again after the eruption has passed. A reminder that you and your community survived one of nature's most powerful events. The city you call home would endure, forever changed yet resilient, just as it has through earthquakes, recessions, and every challenge before.